with the defending champion Denver Nuggets showing what they're made of by beating Minnesota 2 in a row in Minnesota. Yesterday's score was 115-107, and in microcosm, the game may have been won in the last 20 seconds of the first half when Denver scored 8 points in a row, including a heave three by Jamal Murray at the buzzer. Wilbon, where do you see the series now?
With Denver being firmly in control. I don't mean having an advantage. I mean being in control of the series. Of course, games 5 and 7, if that's necessary, would be in Denver, where I know Denver lost the first 2 games of this series, but I ain't betting they would lose 2 more games in the series, Tony. I just don't see that. Look, when they came out for game 3, having been thoroughly just trounced in game 2, they really showed championship mettle starting that night and every moment of the games since. Minnesota, meanwhile, they're not inexperienced at this, but they're not champions. And the only person playing like he's on that trajectory in the last couple of games, particularly last night, is Anthony Edwards. Because there ain't enough help from Karl Anthony Towns. There's not enough help from Naz Reid. There's not enough help from anybody. That ensemble's got to be better. It can't just be Ant-Man out there as a superhero and they're going to have success against Denver, which is in championship form, particularly their starters. My goodness, they look like they did on the way up to a championship last year, not in those first 2 games in Denver when they got blitzed.
It's an interesting series of comments by you because I know that going into game 3, you actually felt that Minnesota was going to win that series. And
Yes,
it doesn't
I
sound
did.
like you feel that right now.
No, I don't.
No. So, I mean, as you know, because we've had this conversation, I am not surprised at any of the scores in games of the series so far. I thought
Right.
Dallas would be ahead of Oklahoma City. I thought that Boston would bounce back against Cleveland. I thought the Knicks and the Pacers would be tied because the Knicks are running on fumes. And I thought that Minnesota and Denver could be tied, but not this way. Not with road teams winning every single game. I never thought that. I sat here last week and said to you that Denver had to win game 3. That was an absolute must game. Jokic had to win it. They had to win it. And they did win it. And that propelled them, I thought, to winning game 4. And one other thing that propelled them to winning game 4 was that Jamal Murray was not suspended, as
That's
most of
right.
us think he should have
Great
been.
point.
Adam
Great point.
Silver saved this series for
Assisted.
Denver.
Yeah.
Adam
Assisted
Silver
Denver.
did that. Yeah,
He
no,
did.
I think that's an important thing. And I'm not surprised at them winning 2 games just for this reason, Mike. They are the defending champions. They showed heart last year, and when they needed to have heart, they had it. And I will say that Minnesota, on a big stage, at home, gagged a little bit. They gagged.
Gagged a lot, Tony, and particularly in that game. They don't look like the same team that went from game 2 to 3. And that, to me, still hasn't been explained properly. They get Rudy Gobert, the Defensive Player of the Year, back in the lineup, and they go south again, except for Anthony Edwards. So, they're not ready yet, Tony. They're just not. And Denver is, and Denver's going to put them away. And here I go making another pronouncement when maybe it's something that won't happen. But the New York Knicks and Pacers are also tied at 2 games apiece. Indiana evened its series yesterday with a 32-point blowout. Jalen Brunson, Dante DiVincenzo, and Josh Hart shot a combined 10 for 36 for the Knickerbockers, including 1 for 13 from 3. Both teams have won all 4 games at home. So, Tony, how should the Knicks feel about the state of things with this series heading back to Madison Square Garden, the world's most famous arena, for Game 5?
The Knicks starters should all check into Mount Sinai Hospital on the Upper East Side and request intravenous fluid, not just 1 bag, but 5 bags each, because Tom Thibodeau is going to play them 48 minutes. That's what he's going to do. I mean, let me just check the notes here. Yeah, Game 5 is a must-win for them. It's not a must-win for Indiana. It's a must-win for the Knicks. This series has the feel of a series that Game 5 will be the decisive game. And if the Knicks win Game 5, they have 3 days to rest. Carlisle is no dope. He watched Jalen Brunson torch him in games 1 and 2. So now he's covering Jalen Brunson 94 feet, and he's wearing him out. Jalen Brunson had 10 different front rim shots in games 3 and 4. He had a bad game yesterday. He had 18 points, 6 for 17 from the field, 0 for 5 from 3, and he'd been routinely scoring 40 points. I think he was minus 26 when he was out there. DiVincenzo was minus 40 when he was out there. That's a tired team. They got beat up because they can't take that pace right now.
Tony, they were toast. They were going to be toast. I mean, they almost pulled out game 3 miraculously. What an effort. Listen, I don't say this very often, but I admire these Knicks and the way they play, and particularly the 3 players that we talked about, the whole squad, but particularly those 3. But they could not summon that yesterday. And I didn't think in the pregame, and I said publicly on the air that I thought that Indiana would win and win easily because the Knicks would not be able to summon that again. Look, come on now. There's some human limits to what the human body can summon. And the Knicks, I thought, had met that limit. Now, I'm with you, Tony. They go back to Madison Square Garden for Game 5. And Madison Square Garden, I mean, I've seen it have, sort of healing prospects on the Knicks in the past. And I've seen it happen. I've sat there at playoff games, and you have too. When you thought the Knicks were dead in the water, they go back to Madison Square Garden and they find something. Well, they better find it in Game 5. I'm with you on that.
Well, again, they can get an extra day's rest if they win Game 5. What they've got going for them right now is that Indiana is not a good road team. They're 1-4 in the playoffs on the road.
Yeah.
And because of the fact that the Knicks are higher seeded, Indiana has to win one game on the road.
Have to win.
They have to.
That's right.